Okay. Hi, everyone. So today we are going to talk about modern web debugging. Just now, Vitali have given a really good introductions of me. So this is because I love fish so much, that's why my handler is Jack Fish as well. So by the way, this part at the bottom is a real screenshot from DevTools. How to achieve it is you can use like %C to put in your style and to format the message in this way. So you can format any message, apply any style in your console.log if you want to have like some nicer console.log messages. Okay, so some of you maybe might find my face maybe similar, you might see me before. That is because if you did not close the What's New in DevTools tab, pops up every now and then when you are debugging the most important bug probably in your life. Then if you click on that, you might have seen some video of me talking about some of the new features in DevTools, or I also have like monthly video to talk about how to use DevTools to debug certain things like performance, CSS, and other stuff. So make sure the next time if you see it, save it for later, don't just close it. All right, so talk about debugging the modern web. Let's go back to 15 years ago. This is how DevTools looked like in 15 years ago, in 2009. So back in the time, there's not many tabs. So you can still find this screenshot. I find it in one of the blog posts. There's only like 4. Actually, there are 5 tabs. There's a console tab as well in the DevTools. Can you guess, fast forwards to 15 years later today, how many tabs or how many panels we have in DevTools? Because when you open DevTools, there's just a lot of tabs. Chrome DevTools, yeah, not other DevTools, yeah. So guess, how many of you guessed 10? Okay, 20? Okay, 30? 40? Okay, so luckily we haven't reached 40 yet. So we have about 32 tabs, fast forward to today. So all the tabs are quite hidden. Some of them are inside. If you click on the 3-dot menu on the side and more tools, you can discover all the tabs that you can and use some of the features. And DevTools, like DevTools, we suffer a lot from the discoverability issues because some of the feature is just there, but it is hard to discover if you do not know where you click on that. Okay, so after 15 years, the browsers still did not learn more languages. Like me, I learned more languages over the time. But browser still only understand 3 languages until today, which is the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But the way we write our applications is so much different today. You use different languages. You use TypeScript. Previously, you used CoffeeScript. You use SASS. You use some preprocessor. And you also use different framework. For example, if you use React, you use templating language like TSX or JSX. You use Vue. You use Svelte. Probably you use Angular templating as well. And not enough. That is not enough. You use meta framework like Next.js and Nuxt.js as well to build your website. So for all this progress, all this process, who is responsible to transform what you are writing into what the browsers can understand? That's the build tool job. So there are build tools like Vite, Webpack, and Rollup, or whatever tools that you are using, who are responsible to transform whatever you write, bundle it, optimize that, and make sure the output is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, something that the browsers can understand. So then, how about debugging? So we have like new tools every now and then to transform to make sure your output is more optimized. So how about debugging? And debugging is very important. So this is probably us in our daily life. We code for 6 minutes, and then because of one typo or one changes, we need to debug for 6 hours just to discover that, oh, we made a mistake here and there. So debugging is really important in our daily work. OK, so let's look at this page. I have a counter component. If I click on the plus button, that in DevTools, somehow in a stack trace, we can show you exactly which line of TypeScript and which column of TypeScript throw an error in this. And then even when you click on that TypeScript, that line, we can bring you straight away to that line in the sources panel. And not only that, if you click again, you can start a debugging session. So am I lying just now? Because just now I mentioned that the browsers only understand HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But just now, whatever I did is TypeScript. So how browsers, how DevTools can understand your TypeScript behind the scenes? Am I lying, or is there some extra process behind the scene? OK, so I'm not lying. So from this page, if you go to this page, you can click on the from that's here. It tells you that this file is from main.js. It's actually a JavaScript file. So there are some magic behind the scene that make sure that we map this main.js file, map it back to whatever you see you write in your, what actually you write. Yeah. And the process is the build tools, when they transform your output, transform your code to the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, it produces an extra file called the source maps. So this source map looks something like this. So this is an example of source map that is using in the main.js .map. So it's a JSON file format. So from here, this line is say that this source map file is for this main.js file. And then here, because one JavaScript file can have multiple sources. For example, you have like your JavaScript, your node modules, everything bundled together to create an output JavaScript file. So here it lists out all the sources that you use for TypeScript, JavaScript, SCSS, or other stuff. And in the source content column, it shows your actual code in your TypeScript or SCSS, whatever code that you write. So then this mapping is exactly something like a coordinates. So it's basically tell that, oh, so the minified file in this position is mapped to the original file, line number 2, column number 6. So these are the position, like each of these 4 letters is basically something we call base 64 VLQ string. So it's basically just tell you how to map the position one-to-one to the actual file. So then DevTools use this information to reverse engineer and then to produce the page, and then to find exactly when it throws when the code throws error. Then we try to find, like, try to map it back. Oh, that means that in your original file, the error is supposed to happen here. So this is how DevTools know. OK, so if you want to find out more about source map, like what are VLQ string just now that I mentioned, I have a video that talks just about the source map itself. And if you did not realize, there's a humor in this page. So there's this tomato sauce, and there's this map. So there's source map. OK. OK. I see some laugh there, so good. OK, then next, let's talk about how, with source map, how DevTools help you to pinpoint issues quicker, and how to help you to stay focused, reduce the noise within your code. So this is before, way before any enhancement happened. When you click on a stack trace, what happened is that, can you look at this whole trace? Your actual source code, the actual thing that you need to debug, probably is the app.component.ts file. And all the others are the code from the frameworks, be it your Angular.js, your Vue.js, or whatever code from the frameworks or from the third-party library, which, when you do stepping or when you look at the stack trace, you need to like browse through a really long list to find out the connection, because you just want to debug your own code instead of the library and the framework's code. So what we did is that now we hide the irrelevant stack trace. We also hide the irrelevant core stack, and we let you to view your author codes first, and we hide the irrelevant files. What do I mean by that? Let me show you a demo. OK, So this is the application that I have. Let me clear it. So if I click on this, what DevTools does now, you see that this is a really nice trace, which will show you app.ts, and then continuously, because you click on the button, and because on the main.ts file, you trigger the error. So we show you a nice sequence of the events happening. What we do is that we hide additional more frames here. So you see that there's 236 frames that we hide from the code probably you don't care about, like Jones.js, instrument.js. So what we have enhanced in the latest version of DevTools is that once you start debugging, if you are using Angular or you are using Nux, we will hide the file from node modules by default. That's why you will get this nice stack trace. So if you still want to see, like, sometimes you might want to know, like, what are the things that happen in the framework and libraries, what you can do is you can click on the Show More to view the complete trace. If it's not, just keep it closed. Then you get a cleaner trace for in here. And then what happens is that if I click on here, if I set a breakpoint and I start debugging, we do the same here as well. So look at here. In the core stack, so this is where when you do breakpoint debugging, you might want to like go step by step. You might want to step in and step out to debug even in details. So here, you can see that by default, we hide all the frames from the node modules. If you want to view it, you can click on this checkbox to view the all frames. So if you don't, you can just hide it because it might not be something that you care about. If you step in, instead of stepping into the framework's code, we're stepping into the next code that you write. So if I step in, did you step in? Oh, something hang. Let me click again. Let me step in. OK. Because I'm using the cutting edge version, Chrome Canary, so probably there are some errors here. So if you click on that, then it's supposed to step, and it will skip all the other frames and just show you like the component file. OK, and not only that, what you can do on the right-hand side here is the page tree. So from here, you can see that by default, we show you whatever output file first. So you read all the JavaScript file and the CSS file. And the code that you actually written, we show it below here under Webpack sessions. And you can see your source and node modules and Webpack. So if you want to reverse it, you want to view whatever code that you wrote first, what you can do is click on this three dot, and you can group this tree by authored and deployed. So authored is the code that you wrote. Deployed is the code that you deploy, the final output that the browsers read. So you can close this, and then just focus on, so this makes it slightly easier for you to discover your own code. Then you can start browsing your code here and set breakpoints. And even more, you can see the node module is grayed out here. So if you think that these are the files, like Webpack files as well, these are the files that you don't care about, and you don't even want to see this ignore file in this tree, you can click on the three dot again and say hide ignore listed sources. So if you hide that, then what you can see now, only the source, we hide the node modules for good. So you can do that. So if it's just like one click away, so if you don't feel comfortable, you still want to see all the file, you just toggle the settings from here. OK. Next, now talk about how DevTools know what to hide. How do we know we should hide node modules? How do we know we should hide the Webpack folder just now that we show you? It's all because of the source map. Because in the source map, just now, what I did not explain is this additional. So in here, so the sources list out all the source file that you wrote. So for example, in this particular case, the node module files is something that is irrelevant. So someone, your framework or your build tools, need to tell DevTools that this is something that I think the developer doesn't really care about. It's probably irrelevant third-party code. So if the frameworks or the DevTools that you are using understand the Google ignore list column, and the frameworks populate that, then DevTools will use these informations to hide the information from the screen, like what you see just now. The good news is, just now I mentioned, if you are using Angular, Nuxt, or if you are using Vite as a DevTools, as your build tools, it already works out of the box. If you start using the latest version of Vite or Angular's version 16 and onwards, you will get that. You can see that all the things is like hiding away. So even more, if you're using Vite, Rollup, and Webpack, there are options for you to configure as well. You can click on the link below to see how you can configure it. For Webpack, you need to install a plugin to do that. For Rollup and Vite, you don't need to install a plugin. The build system itself already supports that. So let me show you an example of Rollup. So this is an example of Rollup config file. So what you can do is in the output, you can use this source map ignore list function, configure it. So let's say you in your own code, you have some third-party assets folder that you might not want to step into it. You might want to, by default, hide it. So you can also say that if the path includes this folder, just hide it by default. Yeah, so you can configure that like this. OK, by the way, Firefox recently also support the ex-Google ignore list. So if you're using Firefox as a DevTools, what you can do is you can click on the side. There is a setting. You need to turn that on. So in Chrome DevTools, it's turned on by default. But if you're using Firefox DevTools, what you can do, you can click on the three dot and then click ignore that. So there is these two links here. You can look into details on how to do that. OK, next question. How many of you are React users? Oh, there's quite a lot of you. So what if your tool chains or the build system or the frameworks like React that you are using doesn't support it yet? So what can you do? So the good thing is you can ignore it, ignore some files or folder manually in DevTools, and we'll do the same. We'll grade them out, and we'll do some extra stuff. And it's actually not just for the frameworks that doesn't support. For example, in your code, let's say you don't want to configure some extra stuff in your build tool. What you can do here, I'm using the same example here. Go to the console. Let's say now in this case, this app.component is something that you are not interested in. So what you can do, you can right-click it and add this script to ignore list. Click on that, clear it. The next time, OK, let me remove the breakpoint. The next time you call the you click it again, it will only show you button and the main.ts because you choose to hide the app.component.ts. So where we hide them under here. So in any case, during your debugging, you just find like some of the files are very annoying. You can just hide it. So what if where is the file? Yeah, so you can see that the app.component is hiding. So if you are mistakenly did this action, you want to undo it, what you can do is you can right-click on the same file and remove it from the ignore list. Then if you do that again, the file will still show. And not just here, in your sources folder, if you want to configure it, in your page tree, let me just ungroup it. So from here, what you can do is, let's say in your sources folder here, you can right-click the whole folder and add the whole directory to ignore list. So if you have an asset, like third-party asset folder, you can right-click and just ignore that. Then during debugging, we won't step into the file as well. So the same, once you add it, the file will be grayed out, and all the subfolder will be grayed out to indicate that this is an ignored folder. And if you right-click, you can remove it from the ignore list. OK? Cool. So this is how you can configure it manually. And there is also some enhancement that we recently learned. It should be rolled out in 2 weeks. So in Chrome 117, which will be rolled out in 2 weeks, you will get these features. How many of you get this error before? DevTools failed to load source map. See, a lot of you. Like there's even an Stack Overflow questions. There's a lot of upvote. why DevTools shows me this failed to load source map? What is that? And then the first recommendation, the top most voted answer is that, oh, go disable the source map. Then this error is gone. Because DevTools try to load the source map, just disable it, then it's gone. But if you do that, that's great. That's just one-time setting. Then if you really want to debug your code, you can't really debug your code because we can't really point you to the TypeScript file or the original file that you do because you already disable it. So don't do that. Go to the second answer. There's a second answer that tells you why these errors happen. And some of this error is actually out of your control because some of this error, the source map errors, is from the Chrome extension. If you are installing a lot of Chrome extension and they sort of remove the source map but still loading them, then you will still get this error. So then our team thought about it. So in the next versions of Chrome, say goodbye to these issues so you get a cleaner console. So there's no more all these errors on the source map loading because we'll show you in the place when you need it. So if you want to see the source map warnings, there's a tab for it. Where you can go is that you can open the Developer Resources tab. In here, we'll tell you if the source map loading is failure or is a success. And if you open a certain minified file, because sometimes if you want to debug your final JavaScript minified file, when you open it, we will show you the errors as well. We say that source map failed to load. And you can choose to ignore this file, or you can do nothing. So by default, you don't see that in the console. Because if you think of it, console is one of the prime UI that if you want to find out what errors that is really matters to you, you go there. And then with all this noise, it makes you harder to debug. So now we remove it, give you a cleaner and a more peaceful console. OK. So after I talk about so many good things about source map and some improvement that we do, let's talk about some challenges that we face when we try to fix some debugging experience by using source map. Source map are not perfect. It is actually quite far from perfect. So let's take a look at this example here. We have two variables. One is the number variable that give a random number, and we have a greet variable which has a hello static string. And then we use the greet and the number to show on the screen. So that is great. So after you build your code with a bundler with a build tool, this is your output. You get just one single line, and you get shorter variable name. So what you do here, you have this hello E. So what you can see here is the variable greet was removed. Because your build tool is very smart, it knows that this hello, the greet variable, is a static string. Why do I waste a space to write an extra line? I might as well just remove it and embedded it straight to the output. And there is this variable E, which is the number. So when you start debugging, set a breakpoint and start debugging, this is what happened. We can still, DevTools, because they are source map, we understand that E is number, is num. So we show you a preview of the num equal to 100, but the greet variable is totally gone because the build tool removed it, and the source map doesn't contain any information of anything that got removed from the final code. So there's no way from DevTools to understand that how should I map it back to which position to show you when you debug the line to show you that value. So unfortunately, this is a little bit of incomplete preview and edit. And to be honest, source map is an unofficial standard. It's not something official. So this spec is a big Google Docs. So if you look at the Google Docs and then, so the spec is on the Google Docs. And the source map spec is in version 3 since 2011. That's it. There's no improvement on the spec or anything. Although the way we develop websites have changed so much, but it's still in version 3 since 2011. And the source map spec is also very flexible. There are something that the spec did not define exactly how the mapping should happen, or if the variable got removed, should you include it in somewhere so that the tools can map it back? There are a lot of ambiguity in the spec. So what happened is that some of the build tools, because they want to optimize for the speed, so since the spec doesn't mention we need to do this, let's come up with our own way to process it, to remove the information. So then it is more optimized code. But this is not great for debugging experience, because in DevTools as a consumer of the source map, and also some of your tools like your Sentry or other tools that you are using, these tools depends on the source map to tell you exactly where your code got error. So if the source map doesn't provide us the information, we can't provide you the information. So the good news is that recently there is an initiative to start standardizing the source map. So TC39, which is the standard bodies behind the ECMAScript, we already start working with TC39 to set up a standards for the source map. And what we are working now is to evolving the source map to harden the spec to make the flexible part a little bit more stated on the expected outcome and to improve the debugging experience. So if you want to see like what are the things that got discussed, you can go to this TC39 GitHub repo to learn more about, or to open an issues. Okay, so for this source map improvement, everyone needs to work together. The build tools, the browser dev tools, the logging tools, like Sentry or Logging Rockets, and also the transpiler and compressor behind the screen. Everyone needs to work together in order to produce a better debugging experience. Okay, now I still have 8 minutes. I have a couple of tips to share. So usually this is the exciting part that I get a lot of claps. I hope you will give me some claps later. Let's see. Okay, the first one is to be able, so now you can use DevTools to override your HTTP response header. Let me show you what that means. So let's go to this demo. If you refresh this demo, in the network panel, you see that there's 2 errors happen. So there's this JSON, it shows that it's a cause error. Anyone haven't hit any cause error before? Never? Never. Okay, no hands. Because too many of you get cause error. Okay, so then if you open your console, you will see this error. No access control allow origin. Something happened in the server that your backend developers haven't set the headers. Probably they forget to set, or they don't know where to set yet. And this block your development. So now you have a way to unblock it. You can right-click on the request. You can click on Overrides Header here. And then if this is your first time overriding a header, you need to select a folder. So let's select a folder. And then give the system an allow. So once you did that, what you can do is that you can override this header wherever way you want. So in this case, I will add a header, put in the access control allow origin, and I just allow all. So if I refresh the page, now you can load the JSON file, you can load the result without waiting for the backend to fix this one line. Okay? So okay. Thank you. Okay. Then of course, we can do the exactly same thing for the second request. We can right-click, override it. But what is even better is that because when you override it, behind the scenes we add a JSON file. If you click on the same file, instead of to-do.json, you can say that apply to all the JSON file. Why just apply to one? And then you refresh it, so you get the 2 requests now. Yeah. So you can continue your development. Good. Okay. So to be honest, this override features is not new, but override headers is something new. And I want to show you another good news for the overrides is that how many of you need to, so sometimes when you do front-end development, your API haven't ready yet. So because the back-end developer is still developing it, and you need to prototype, you need to mock your own data. How many of you mock your own data when you do? Okay, cool. So the second tips here is that you can mock your APIs or some files contained with DevTools. So let me show you how to do it. So this is, I have this JSON response. So if you look at the response, this whole list of coffee is from this JSON response. We map it, and then we show it here. OK? So I can right-click on this, and I say override the content. So this is look at this. This is a fetch request, which is a API, a REST API. So you override it, so it will generate this file. So espresso, let's change it to double espresso. And then, because it's double, right, we change it to 20. Okay. So if I refresh it, you can see that it shows 20 here. So it's not just this. So imagine that there's no response at all. What you can do is you can create your own response, or you can create a different sort of like response, like sometimes like you test your empty state and non-empty state by just using DevTools to mock your API results. So this would speed up your development a little bit more. Yeah. OK. Good. OK. In 2 weeks, you will get that. So this is a new features. OK. The next one is that this is a panel, Quick Source. How many of you know about this Quick Source tab? You don't? OK, good. Because the funny thing is that I know about it, but one of my DevTools team member, engineer, the other day just came to me. Oh, I did not realize that we have this Quick Source tab here. Why do we have that? Then we're like, oh, OK. So this happened actually quite frequently. Even some of our team members, like even myself, we just discover new DevTools features every now and then we share across the team. Yeah. Because imagine the DevTools source codes have been like 12, 15 years, and it has evolved in so many hands, so no one has a single knowledge for everything. OK, so what this Quick Source tab does is that just now when you right-click and you override the content, right, it's jumped to the Sources tab. So it's like you need to switch context to jump here and there. So what you can do is that you can click Escape, open the bottom panel, and then from here, you can open the Quick Source tab. So as long as you have this tab open, the next time when you like close this file, so the next time when you right-click, when you override the content, instead of jumping to the Sources panel, you can just edit here. Let's change it to triple espresso and 30. So you can change it in context or close the file, and you can still get here. So this is easier for you when you want to like edit the CSS file as well. So instead of going there, you can just do it here, instead of jumping back and forth. OK, so this is making it slightly more convenient. OK, next one, JavaScript snippet. Anyone use this? Good. What do you use it for?
I do a lot of training, so it's a very quick way to whip up quick execution.
Yes, so there is a quick way for you to run some repeatable code that you want to run every day. So one of the things that I use it for recently is that I have an analytic page. Unfortunately, the analytic page doesn't support any filtering. It just shows you the data. And I'm too lazy to write a long list, so what I do is that I write a script to just remove whatever data and row that I don't want, so that I can still see it on screen. So if you have this, you will need to do something regularly. You can save a snippet and do it. So there are a lot of performance experts that have a lot of like different performance snippet to, for example, get the slowest element on the page and get some images on the page. So you can go to these very good resources. It has a list of like web performance snippet that you can use to run on the page. So in this case, what I did is that I have a get images snippet. So the snippet tab is in the sources tab here. So you never know, right? So beyond the page, you have like workspace override, and there's a snippet tab here. So if you click on it, you can add a new snippet to save it. As long as it's JavaScript file, it will run. And then from here, I already created one called get images. So what this does is that I need to go to a page with an image. Probably let me open this. So what this does is that if I run it, I can click the play button to run it. Once I run it, it will list out all the images on the page, and then I can sort it by the size. So this makes it slightly easier for me to work on it. So yeah, so this is how I use it. So you can save any repeatable code, just run it. And even better, if you are not within the source tab, you don't need to always like come to this snippet tab, open it and run, because there's just too many steps. In any tab that you want to run, you just need to type Command-Shift-P to pull out this DevTools panel and use the exclamation mark. So when you say that this means like run, and then it will list out a list of snippets that you can choose. Click Enter to run it, then you can run it in any page without going specifically into the snippet tab. OK, the last one. I think some of you might like this one because there's a lot of designers here. OK, 0, I need to speed out a little bit. So this last demo. So tell me, in your YouTube, let's say this is your YouTube page. I type in something. If you want to debug this drop-down, let's say the magnifying icon, something wrong. How do you debug it? You want to inspect in DevTools, and then you want to change some of the style. How would you get started? Do you right-click and inspect? Probably. When you right-click and inspect, no, it's gone. And then the next thing, what you will do? Probably you will go to the hardware and then say like, oh, OK, so this is this element. Maybe if I click focus or hover on this element, that drop-down will show up. But it actually doesn't show up. And at this point, you are a little bit desperate, and then you just click. Click everything. OK, and then it still doesn't show up. So the logic about this disappearing element is that it tracks your page focus. So wherever your page focus lost, not just the element, it will just close the drop-down. That makes sense because when we move that, but when we want to debug it, it's just harder. So in DevTools, there's this hidden feature. It's not anywhere else in here. If you click on Escape, click on this 3 dot, go to this Rendering tab, scroll down. There's a lot of hidden feature here. I can talk maybe 3-4 talks on this one. So you can click on this Emulate a Focus page. So it's basically emulate your page focus. Go back to the page, and then you can debug it. Yeah. OK. So because of this, because I get so many claps every time, recently what I'm trying to do is that I'm trying to think of like how to surface all these little things to the place that you might debug it. So one of the place that we think we might want to surface this emulate focus page is in the fourth state here. So we might put the checkbox here or something here to help you to access to this quicker instead of go to the rendering tab and do this. Yeah. All right. So one last thing. I hear this a lot. A lot of developers mention that they never report any bugs in DevTools, but DevTools just fix them automatically. Like I don't report, there's some errors happen. After a while, it's just gone. So DevTools somehow know it. Unfortunately, we are not AI. There's no AI to help us test and debug. So please, if you find any issues, please help us by reporting the issues so that we know and we will work on it. Or just tag us in like X or Twitter or Mastodon. Then we will look into it. So that's all for today. So these are some of the fish that I told, and I really like them. If you like diving, I can recommend a few spots in Asia for diving as well. So this is the slide. Dankeschön. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jocelyn. No, that was incredible. I don't know how much time we have left. Probably not that. 26 minutes. Excellent. There is one person
OK.
who typed very slowly. Can you show a few other useful DevTool tips like the one with course, please? It used to be in lowercase. Then please became uppercase. And then eventually it's bold.
Oh,
Right?
wow.
I think if we don't act on it, then it might become colorful.
Okay.
Maybe, do you think you could show a few other things that you use a
Yeah.
lot?
So how I adjust the length of the talk is that I always have a few hidden tips that I hide it. So if you open this slide, you will see more tips. Because I know that I might not have enough time, but I just throw in the slide, so if you want to watch that. So one of the things that I can show is the recorder tab. How many of you know that DevTools have a recorder tab? Oh, okay, then there's not a tips for a lot of you already. Okay, but maybe something that you doesn't know, I will still show it. So let's say if I order the recorder tab. Okay, I need to open a page that works. So this one. So what this recorder tab does is that you can create a recording and give it any name, and then click Start Recording. So then you can click and do your action. You can see that DevTools just trying to record all your actions, just like any others too. .com, and then click on it and then submit it. So once you finish the recording, you can end it. So the next time, what you can do is you can replay the recording, then it will replay it on the page. So let's say if you want to test something, you can test something repeatedly, you can record and then do that. And not only that, you can download it. So let's say you want to report a bug, and you don't want to tell exactly which step, you can export that as a JSON file. Let's say I export that as a coffee file, then I can delete this file. Just send it to anyone. They can import the file, click on coffee, and then they can replay it. They can even replay it in a very slow, different speed as well if you want to. So not only this, so this is quite basic. You can do a lot of customization here. You can install also plugin. So once you install plugin, you can view, for example, Cypress. If you use Cypress, you can view the Cypress test script here as you hover to it. And the cool thing is that if you don't want to use it for any test automation, you just want to for example, a lot of time, I don't need the automation script to automate the whole page. I just want them to automate a certain part of the page, like filling in some details. So what you can do is that by default, we will have a step to navigate. So you can just remove the navigate step, remove this step, and I remove the click element as well, because what I want to do is just proceed to the checkout and fill in the form, or probably I remove the proceed to the checkout as well. So assuming I already opened this form, and I just click replay, it will just replay that part without any refresh. So if you want to just automate your shipping forms, automations to click all the page, you can use this to do that. Okay, yeah, there are more. Look at the slide.
Okay. There are also a few questions that came up here, which could be interesting, so please feel free to join me. One of them is coming from Matthias. Which source map format is the best from the browser's perspective?
Okay, so for the browser's perspective, there's only one type of source map that we support, which is the version 3 since 2011. There are other type of source map that support by others programming language. Like for example, in the WASM, we support some other type of source map called Draft. There are some discussion on that if we want to move to the Draft format, which is including more information, or we stay in the source map. So far, the discussion is towards to stay in the source map version just to harden it and improve it instead of change it totally to another format, because the whole ecosystem needs to change if the format is totally changed as well. So it's a big work. It's an even bigger work. Yeah.
Another question that is also coming in from Christian. Are source maps loaded by the browser when DevTools pane is closed?
No, source map is not loaded by DevTools. It's not loaded by the browsers when the DevTools is closed. Good questions. It's only when DevTools open, then it loads. Because it makes sense, else the page will be slower.
Is there a feature for sharing breakpoints, for example, for collaborative debugging with colleagues? Asks Chris.
This is a good feature request. No, we don't support it now.
Okay. Would you recommend shipping source maps in production?
Okay, so the way that you ship source map in production, you can ship it, but you hide it. So you don't need to. You can remove it from the page, and then when you debug it in a production, what you can do is that you can right-click, go to the one of the page that you want to debug, right-click and choose attach source map. And then you can choose your hidden source map in order to debug your file. So you can ship it, but not ship for everyone else to see if you don't want to. Yeah, so hide it and only for your own use.
Paul is wondering, you didn't mention WebAssembly amongst languages that browsers understand. DevTools now has basic WebAssembly debugging.
Yeah.
Will WebAssembly languages become or already are first-class citizens like JavaScript?
Good, yeah, correct. We actually support WebAssembly as well. I will add it to the list, just to simplify my list just now. So WebAssembly is a first-class citizen, yes, because we have a team like working on the WebAssembly as well. And yeah.
Okay. A few more that came up here. Is there actually an exchange happening between the, because we've been in this phase where we started the project where browser developers are collaborating in terms of the features developed, the CSS and so on, right? And so the question from Sasha is there exchange happening between the Chrome DevTools team and the Firefox DevTools team and maybe Safari?
There are no, so the collaborative can come in a lot of ways. So there are some conversation like here and then, like, oh, these features like probably we should implement or probably they should implement. Like there are some discussion about it, but there's not a formal discussion. There's no like every bi-weekly we have a meeting. There's no sort of this, but it's more like casual collaborations and conversations.
Fabian is asking in bold.
In bold, okay.
In bold. Can you please turn on the emulate focus page feature as a default?
Okay, this is a very good question because when we are talking about, so this is just recently happened because I want to make the emulate for focus page more discoverable. And then we have almost a whole day discussions of how we can do it. And one of the options is to turn it on by default. But it's probably not what you want. So let's say if you are moving away from the focus on the page. So let's imagine, let's say it's not the disappearing element. You use the page focus to show something on the page itself when you focus on it. And then when you go to DevTools and debug it, you expect that to be disappear, let's say. And then now we turn that on by default. And then you're like, oh, this is not the actual page behavior that I'm expecting. So then you might file a bug on it. So this might cause the other way of the issues when people really use the page focus to do stuff, but we enable it by default. We change the default behavior of what a web page should be. So we did not opt for that options to turn that on, but we will provide you an easier options to enable it instead.
Okay. Are there actually any features, it's not the question that came up here, but are there actually any features in DevTools that you are particularly excited about, that are kind of in the pipeline that should be coming soon?
So the coming soon that I want is like in 2 weeks, the one that I show is that the override API features. So that is something that I already want for years. And then, yeah, so that is the one that I'm excited about, then the override header,
Okay. Well, now that we have 1 minute left, I do have to ask a question because, I mentioned in the introduction that you're very much excited in going diving, right? Where was that? Oh, no, I don't have it here. Diving, so I'm wondering, what remote islands have you been to where you could live comfortably for weeks and months without Wi-Fi?
Okay.
Any tips for anybody who just tired of the internet?
So I have, so I've been to this island in Komodo. So Komodo is, they are famous for Komodo dragon, but actually it's a top 10 dive site in the world. So there's this resort which is very remote from the land. So if you fly in, there's no direct flight. You need to fly in like 2 flights and then a ferry trip to a remote island. So in the island, basically, there's just the local village and the dive resort. I can share you the name later. And then I can stay there for like 2 weeks. There's nothing, like just every day you go out for like 3 dives, and then you come back and then just look at the sunset. Then you just feel like life is good, no code.
Okay, well, that's wonderful. So if you are looking for more inspiration on that regard, you can always find the speaker, of course, here outside next to the fireplace. So thank you so much for being with us, Jocelyn. It's been wonderful.
Thank you.